Okay, I'm hitting record. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We are kicking off our book study for A Joy-Filled Life. And we have Althea Osborn joining us as our guest co-host today. I'm just so excited. And in chapter 1, this is all about building a foundation and digging into your foundational values. And so there's a lot of information here about Mo, and my biggest takeaway was that Mo grew up kind of poor, and she was sick and tired of being poor, and that is really core in her foundational building. And so when I was thinking about who could I possibly have to join me for chapter 1, because it's just a lot of information, right? Like, I grew up here and here's about my mom, and it's kind of hard to discuss those kinds of things rather than ideas and takeaways. And I thought, who better than Althea Osborn? So Althea was one of the first agents with Gary Keller, and she was instrumental in helping to create the Y4C2Ts, ALC, and Profit Share. Althea has not quite hit 1 million yet in 1 year, she said, in Profit Share. However, she's gotten really close. So guys, a big warm welcome to Althea.
Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely to be here. And Mo and I started similarly, and we're almost the same age. I think I'm a little bit older than she is.
Yeah.
So
Althea, what's interesting is this morning, well, first of all, I just want to briefly ask, tell me a little bit about when you met Mo and sort of some of that foundational building in Keller Williams. And then I want to ask some more questions about some things you shared with me this morning.
Okay, I met Mo when I was beginning to grow the region in Dallas. I bought North Texas, New Mexico, and I met Mo. She was teaching. She had a training program, and she was taking it to one of our offices. I didn't really see her there. I just heard about her, and I didn't actually meet her until she had committed to join Gary as the new CEO. And I'll actually, thinking at that time, I thought Gary needed somebody a bit pushier. I didn't realize she was a velvet hammer in those days. And so I kind of had to explain to her that I was supporting her 100%. And we connected very, very strongly, very quickly. I think we both came from similar backgrounds in a way. She was on a farm, fairly hard up and working hard. I grew up in a war. We were very hard up, no money, and we had similar beginnings. So I think we decided we were sisters, and that we should, so every time anything was going on, Mo and I would get together and we would sort stuff out. And then she got way beyond me after that. So, but growing up with hardship is much easier to have as a foundation, I believe, than growing up very wealthy with everything you need, because then you just think the world owes you instead of trying to get your arms around being worthwhile. And I'm watching the younger today, including my grandchildren, and it's hard to see they've got everything they need. We had nothing. I had to walk to school. She had to walk to feed the cows. Well, I had to walk to school when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 with a gas mask around my neck. And if the air raid went, we went into the basement. And the school was about 1 mile away. So similarities, you know, growing up like that. And then after the war, it was going to be, in a way, like after COVID, maybe. I don't know, but there was nothing. And one of the things I think that came from that foundation for me was that there are choices in life that you make, and that determines your life. And if I go back into my life, I have 3 choices and I think that I changed my course of action or my course of life that changed my life.
What are those?
You want me to go into them now?
Yes,
Okay.
we want you to go into your life. This is so fast.
Okay.
I've got my pen
Well,
and paper.
I grew up in the war, and my father was a fighter pilot, and we had to go around the airfields with him, and he would take off in his plane. And my poor mother she never told us, never knew if he was going to come back again or not, because he might get shot down. But we didn't have that. She protected us from all those worries. She was a wonderful mother, very strong. Unfortunately, he walked out when I was 6 and I never saw him again. So then it was just up to my mother. And she had 3 children, 6, 4, and 2, and practically no money. Fortunately, my grandmother had some, and I had a godmother. And to cut a long story short, I was sent to boarding school, which I loved, because there I became me. You have to be yourself at boarding school. I know Americans don't do that much, but in my day, everybody anybody went to boarding school. I thought my first choice, I thought I was going to be a teacher, because Mo loved music. I loved children. I was going to be a teacher too. I left school at 17, and I had booked at a college, but not until the following September. I left in December of when I was 17, and I was a bit too young, so I had to wait that 7 months. My godmother sent me to Switzerland to learn French. I got out to Switzerland age 17, and I think, oh my God, there is a whole world out here. Why do I want to shut myself in a schoolroom with kids for the rest of my life? I want to see the world. So we had no TV, no tech, no nothing. I had to write my mother a letter, and I told her, I don't want to be a teacher, sorry, Mum. I want to go into the Foreign Office. So that was my first big decision. Came back, had to cram to get into the Foreign Office, couldn't make it. My mother had a friend in MI5 who said, I can get Althea into the Foreign Office as a secretary. So that's what I did. And I didn't know until I was accepted in what I thought was the Foreign Office, that it was actually the British Secret Service. And I was not a spy, but I was a secretary to a spy. And that changed my life. I was 2 years in London. I couldn't tell anybody where I worked. If people I had to meet for lunch, I had to drive to the Foreign Office, meet them in the front hall, pretend I worked there. It was fascinating. I met people. I had picked envelopes from under seats and stuff. And that changed my life, because then I was sent to Germany, to Frankfurt, Germany, to the consulate there as a secretary. Those were the days of the Iron Curtain, and I had to meet people and pick up stuff and drop stuff, and they had to say code words, and I did a lot of coding. And that's where I met my husband, Robert. And I was 22 or 3. I couldn't tell him what I was doing. It was the Foreign Office, but I think he guessed after a while. And that was my next big decision. I met him at a lunch. He took me home. I'd known him for 5 hours. I love telling this story. He looked at me, took me home. He said, how are you getting home from this luncheon? I said, I'm the bus. And he said, I'll take you. I'm going to take you. Stopped at the club. We had a glass of wine. As we get up to go, I'd known him 5 hours. He looks at me and says, I'm going to marry you. Well, I didn't want to marry an American. I didn't want to marry a military man of any nationality. But finally, less than a year later, we were married. And I married an American military man. And that was big change number 2. I then became a wife and mother for 20-something years. We were always broke. Not broke, hard up. The pennies, I had to save the food for the end of the month before we were paid, you know. Then he came back, and my third big choice in life, after 22 years moving about 20 times, 16 years in Germany, 4 years as he was military attaché in London, which was wonderful for me. And then my third choice in life, I feel that the three choices, was joining Gary Keller and starting with Keller Williams in 1983, and I'm still here today. So those are my choices that changed my life. And I always say to people, if you look back at your life as you get to be older, you have to get quite older because you're still coping with life up until about 70 something, I suppose. You look back and you don't look forward so much anymore. There's not that much to look forward to. But when you look back, you see the places that life changed and you changed and what happened. And there were some things that happened that were not very good, but because of other things that came, they turned out well. It's interesting. And I think that my feeling is the two things in life that are most important, and I've said this all over the world, is integrity and relationships. Those are the two things you can probably take with you. You can take, integrity gets you there, relationships you pray are up there waiting for you. That's all you can take. So those two things, if you build your life on those two things, it'll be a good life. And Mo and I've done similarly like that. We talk slightly differently, but similarly.
Yes. Well, what's amazing is the comments over here. Everyone's going nuts saying, okay, I'm the first to buy Althea's book. Also, there's a very special message here for you. Where is it?
I don't have time to read all those at the same time.
Yeah, there was a message from Tracy Everett, I believe, saying hello from South Africa.
Right. I know her. South Africa was another big, but it was a decision, but it wasn't, it didn't change my life. It changed other people's lives, I think. I hope.
I think you're right, because there's a message here from my friend Wendy. Wendy, where are you? Okay, she's waving down here in black. If you can see her,
well, I have it? Everybody, I can only see 5 across the top.
Okay.
Wendy, I unmuted you. You can talk to her.
Wendy, say
hi.
Hi,
Althea.
Wendy who? Wendy who?
Wendy Puzan. I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, hi, Wendy. Yes.
So what's interesting about this is Wendy's first time meeting you, and she's in your downline.
Oh.
I've always been dying to meet you.
It's so amazing when people say that to me. I think there are 6,500 under me altogether, and it's just, you know, and it keeps growing, but we need to get back into it, by the way. I feel strongly that we need to get back into building a profit share. Well, it's not really profit share. It's building a team as well as building a business. Mm-hmm. And business got so important and so much at the forefront of everybody's mind that the profit share kind of went away, even in the market centers. I used to be asked to speak all over the world, nation, about profit share. Not so much anymore, because people have put it on page 2, but I think it's coming back onto page 1. I may be wrong, but it should, because when you're 85 and you're sitting and you get a check, well, last month it was it wasn't so much, the months before it was $50,000 in 1 month. Wow. So why wouldn't you do that? I'm still doing it. I'm actually talking right now to about 5 people in another, what I call upmarket company, because that became very important. I'm upmarket anyway, so I don't worry about that so much. But I don't worry about name. I worry about your integrity and what you do and how you work, and that you're working for the customer, not for yourself. And I think that catches people, because my customers are loyal too. So I forget where I was going with that, but that's all right.
No, I like that, Squirrel. So I had the opportunity, Althea, I told you earlier, I'll share with everyone. I had the opportunity to be in Mo's home and spend a few hours. We had coffee together, and I prepared what I thought was a doozy of a question, because I'm ready to build huge things in Oklahoma. And so I go in with this question, and I said, Mo, if there was one thing in Oklahoma you would love to see done that's not currently being done, what is it? And I just eagerly awaited my own assignment. And she said, profit share. Not one person in Oklahoma has embraced the idea of the passive income that profit share can provide.
That's so true. And it's bound to go in and out a bit because sales makes you a lot of money today. But what about when you're 85? What are you going to be doing? I did sell a house last month, or a month before, I think it was, before COVID it was, thank God. One of my customers wouldn't work with anybody else. And I said, look, I don't do it anymore. I work with somebody. No, Althea, he said, I just want you. Okay, I said, I'll do it. But I don't know, I didn't like doing it because it's all online now. And I had to do it on DocuSign and everything. But I had a wonderful seamless contract help me. And they were absolutely fantastic. So I didn't really have to do, because Maureen, my partner, died. So we worked together for 25 years. And she died before me, which is cheating. I told her that as she went.
Well, Althea, I want to open it up for questions here in just a second. So you guys, if you'll type. So I have two questions for you. One, will you come back and teach your profit share class for all of us?
Well, it depends where, and yes, I would love to, but I don't fly that much anymore. I mean, I didn't go to England this year, and of course we're not flying right now, but I do one online or something, because I think if you could get excited, if you could get people excited about it like we were, when we worked with Gary, we worked top agents every single week, and he had a profit presentation every Thursday night at 6 o'clock that we could bring people to. And we had so many good conversations in those days. Gary Todd, Gary Gentry, God, all of the names, they're all still around and profiting. And we came up with the Y4C2Ts. It was I4C2Ts. And then we said, where's the win-win? Oh, we'll make it Y4. It was just a brainstorming every week. And Gary and he's doing that now, I noticed, with Zoom calls, because I've been on several of those. And he's collecting people, and almost it reminds me of those days in a different way, because we've got another crisis, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And I think profit sharing will come out. I think you should continue to get the accent back on that a bit as well.
I agree. Especially right now, so many other brokerages, some of their agents I see, they don't know what to do.
No.
We can help you. Okay, so my question, and actually this is just a better question than mine. So Donna, I'm going to unmute you. Donna's got a question for you.
Althea, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for sharing your stories today.
Not at all. Lovely to see you.
One of the questions that I have, I see Perry in the background since you learned French. That's my motivation. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, or to say the story about you getting in the car and driving to Dallas with Gary with the phone book. That was one of the first stories I heard about you, and I was so impressed by that. I think if people haven't heard it, they might like to hear it.
Well, I don't know that I remember the phone book. I had my book with my people in it.
Well, maybe that was it.
I think it was, yes. And I just went through it with Gary. The thing is that I got into profit sharing, and I went to, it was usually magazines, because I went to him when I started getting these checks for $20, $400, $200, $2. No, I think my first one was $2. I framed it. I thought, this is going to go somewhere. I need to get into this. So I went to Gary and said, what can I do? And he said, well, if you want to come with me when I go to Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio, you can drive with me if you want. I decided I would do that one day a week. And that's when I took one day a week to drive. He used to leave at 6, get back at about 8 that evening. And he would be running the offices and teaching and all of that. I would get into the phone book or usually the magazine for all the real estate agents. And I would cold call, and just say, I didn't start by telling about the profit share. I don't usually approach it with that because that's selling. I just told them that I did a lot of relocation and I'd like to talk to them about referring business. So of course they're going to meet with me, right? And it was true, because I did do a lot of relocation business. Thanks to a guy I met who started Cirrus, who bought Cirrus. He gave me all the relocation in Austin. That's why I became number 2 or 3 in the city. And he gave me all those buyers at the beginning of my career. I didn't know what I was doing, but I found out by doing it. I learned by doing. So I did that in Dallas too. And I recruited several people from Dallas, and then I go to Houston and then San Antonio. And Trabal, I wonder where she is now. I see that she makes sales sometimes. She was one of my first drawing agents in San Antonio. I'll have to email her and tell her I left a message. I haven't talked to her forever. She's been with us about 30 years too. So I recruited, and I always say when I'm recruiting about recruiting, try to recruit out of your city as well as in your city, because that way you get it's like having a team. Now it's teams. People start teams. I started my team, but I don't have any responsibility. I just get the money, which is to me an easier way of it. Start your stuff. I went to Hawaii. I went into a little store there, and it was a mom and pop shop, and told them about it on my holiday. I do it on the airplane. I sat next to a guy that sold medical equipment once, a long time ago. I don't know whether he ever joined. And I said, what do you do? And he said, I sell medical. I said, have you ever thought of selling houses? And he said, well, I have actually. I said, where do you live? He said, Saratoga. I said, okay, I'll send you the names of the agents in Saratoga. You should talk to them. So I do it. It's here, not here. It's here in my brain all the time. Next week, I've got a wine evening with 2 or 3 people from Berkshire, I think it is, that I'm just having wine with them. I don't push it. I don't sell it. I tell the story and then show how it's benefited me. I don't sell it. I don't like cold calling. I never did that much. I did everything people to people. But people do things different ways, and people now are just doing cold calling, aren't they? About joining Keller. And they don't even sell houses. I don't know, it's strange, but the world is strange today for me. Growing up with no aeroplanes, no television. I grew up with 4, well, there were a few aeroplanes, but not many. So there you go. Donna, nice to see you. Okay, Missy.
Yeah, I muted myself and then didn't unmute. I've got 2
Don't mute yourself.
questions.
Don't mute yourself.
I know. Dana Munson has a question out of Bakersfield, California. I'm going to unmute you so you can ask your question.
Hi, Althea.
Hi.
So, you know, you were from a difficult era like we are, and this whole homeschooling thing and everything is new. So how did you find a good work-life balance? I'm still, you know, doing my Zoom calls with my beautiful children. I'm, you know, trying to be a mentor to them and showing them what mama does while they're at school all day. And I'm just seeing, how did you find that good balance?
Well, hello, what's your name? What's her name?
Leilani.
Silani? How are you? I can't hear you. You break up. Well, how are you?
Leilani.
Leilani, how are you? That's a pretty name.
Good.
Althea is a different name to say. Leilani is good because there aren't many Leilanis around, I bet. You know, there aren't many Altheas either. So anyway, what was the question? Yes. How did I, yes. Well, for 22 years, I was a wife and mother. So my son, David, who is 14 when I started real estate, he said, my mother started real estate and I never saw her again. So I didn't balance it that well, but my children were 14, 17, and 20. So they didn't need me as much as Leilani does. But I think Leilani will learn a lot, because all the things that she has and does have been taken away for a while. And the most important things now are family and what you can do from home and how that's supported. So she will support you and you will support her, right?
Right.
So you'll have to do some calls for mom and say, you know, things. Maybe you could do that. How old are you?
10.
10. See, I've got a granddaughter of 10 and a granddaughter of 11. And they're having they're going through the same things. One's David's and one's Richard's. So I see them every week when I'm here. So I think you'll learn a lot from actions. She'll learn a lot from you, because it changes life, and different things become more important.
Yes.
It's not so important what dress you're wearing. It's much more important who you're going to be able to connect with.
True.
Thank you. Okay, Missy.
I know, I keep forgetting to unmute myself, you guys. In the world of Zoom faux pas, I am queen.
Well, don't mute yourself. Just shut up.
Yes, ma'am. I think that's a yes, ma'am. Chuck Wells, also from Oklahoma, has an amazing question.
Hi, Missy. Hi, Althea. Thank you so much for giving us 30 minutes of your day and pouring into us. A lot of times we hear words thrown around, and when you mentioned the two most important things in life being integrity and relationships, will you define integrity for us as Althea sees it and lives it?
I think it's always about doing the right thing and keeping your word, even though it might not be the best thing for you. And I think that's integrity is always doing the right thing. And it's hard sometimes, especially in real estate, because the right thing for you is to make a sale, but the right thing for the person might be not to make a sale. I've done that several times with people who want to sell their house, and I've said, don't you think you should keep it as a rental and buy another house and save? I've done that. I have one who's just come back to me 20 years later. The house that he kept and didn't sell has appreciated by 250,000, and he's thanking me all the way. And now he wants to sell it and buy $1 million house. And I said to him, no, you can't sell it until you've lived in it for 2 years, because otherwise you'll pay taxes. Now, if you're prepared to pay the taxes, go live in it. Otherwise, wait 2 years. And all that takes money out of my pocket. But integrity is just doing the right thing. I don't think you can describe it any other way. You try to do the right thing for your family, yourself, whatever. And a lot of people will twist and turn, and, you know, stuff goes on in business particularly. But I've never had a problem. I have my logo, what do you do when you make it only yours? You make it just for me, right? We're service based on trust. And that's what I lived by with everything that I've done.
I love that. And the aha, and just listening to you explain that, integrity is a relationship. It's for the long term. Right. It's not today. It's, you know, what's to come. Yes. Also. So.
Right. It is. You're right. You're right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we've got time for one more. We're already a couple minutes late. I think everybody probably feels like me. We could just keep going all day. I'll tell you what, we have right here, Kathleen, where are you? I'm unmuting you. Oops. Kathleen Garden has a question, and after that, we'll close out.
Hey, hi, Althea. I'm here in Michigan.
How are you?
And us Michiganders are pretty resilient from the Motor City. But I just want to know, I appreciate your love for Keller Williams and how you share it with others. And I think I heard you speak one time at Keller Williams Family Reunion that you don't recruit, you go out and share your love of Keller Williams. And that really was a great mind shift for me. So when I travel, which I go on airplanes a lot, I do share how much I love Keller Williams. I'll wear my hat, my shirt. But my question is, if you could change one thing in your 85 years of life, or do that one thing differently, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a difficult one because I'm not sure I would. There were several moments in my life that changed my life, like when my husband lost his job suddenly. I thought it would, end of world had come, but everything, you know, there's anything I would actually change that I finally did. I married right. I chose the right guy for Gary. I chose Gary. I had 3 kids. I nearly didn't have my last child because we had a boy and a girl and we were broke. So Bob came back from Vietnam and he wanted another child. He said, I said, you're crazy. We got a boy and a girl. What do you want the one for? I really wanted another child. But you see, I did it. And then I had David. And what would I do without David? So I don't know that I can help you with anything that I should have done that I didn't do.
Well, that sounds like you live with no regrets.
I do. I live with absolutely no regrets. Everything has been done right for me, not without hard moments, but everything as I have lived has been what I'm glad it has been. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't come up with something. I'll think about it. If I can, I'll send it to you.
Well, Althea, thank you so much for being here. Guys, I think this was absolutely perfect because as we read in chapter 1, I didn't see any regrets in Mo's story either. And she took the hard times and the tough times that she had, and she built her dreams off of that. It was her foundation. And Althea, thank you for sharing some of your story because you've obviously done the same thing.
I think so, yes. It's when life treats you hard, that's when you have to make the good decisions. And this is what we're living through right now, I think.
Well, Althea, if you had one piece of advice on taking the next step toward profit share, what one thing would you send us off with today?
I would just say, go recruit, recruit, recruit. And that doesn't mean sell. It means tell the story. Tell people who are struggling right now, so many are going to be struggling, and they don't have what we have. And if you'll change people, I cannot tell you how many people come up to me at family reunions and things and say, Althea, you changed my life. Well, they changed mine too. You know, South Africa, Johan. I mean, Mike Brody says that. I mean, they say it, but they changed my life. So it's mutual. And that's what God means us to do, work together.
Well, right? Thank you, Althea. In the spirit of Mo, will all of you join me in giving Althea a big virtual hug? Althea, you'll have 57 of them.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.